Welcome back to BYoungMinistry.com, to another blog and to another podcast. Welcome to those who access the podcast through Apple, Rumble, Spotify, and YouTube. Today we continue in our study of 1 Peter chapter 2, we're in verses 7 and 8, which reads, "Therefore, to you who believe, he is precious, but to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble, being disobedient to the word, to which they also were appointed." Today we return to our study of 1 Peter chapter 2, where the Apostle Peter is presenting the Lord Jesus as precious to all willing to believe in him as the living stone, and as the stone of stumbling and the rock of offense to those who do not believe that he is the Messiah. When the Apostle Peter wrote these words, he no doubt had in mind those caretakers of the Jewish religious system, who were the self-imposed builders of God's work on earth. They were those who took out their measuring instruments of their own religion, and they surveyed the Lord Jesus Christ and his claims as Messiah. Like many today, they concluded the Lord Jesus didn't fit their expectation of him. So they rejected him and the salvation he offers. In verse 7 of today's passage we read, "Therefore to you who believe he is precious, but to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone." In this verse, the apostle brings our attention to one of the most incredible contrasts in human history. Those who believe in the Lord Jesus as Messiah is contrasted by those who do not believe. For those who believe in God's definition of the Lord Jesus is precious. These are recognized through the scriptures as those who, to some degree, have become obedient. These are those who have responded to the truth that God has given them, and with their obedience to some truth, God has chosen to give them even more truth. To these, the Lord Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. For these, the Lord Jesus is increasingly becoming the firm foundation upon which to build their lives. On the other hand, to those who reject him, he is the stone whom they keep tripping over. The word rejected means disallowed after close examination. They examined the Lord Jesus with a myopic view of God, and they chose wrongly. They took out the measuring tools of their own religion, and they assessed the Lord Jesus by the wrong standard. They concluded him as not being the one upon whom they should build their lives. Their choice accentuates that most reject him because they already have a God, and their God is themselves. In contrast, God also has a measuring line. In concert with his measurements, God also examined the Lord Jesus, and he concluded, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." In his book, Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis wrote, "Jesus is the sovereign Lord of the universe. We either believe him and make him the foundation of our lives, or we reject him and spend the rest of our lives falling over him. There is no other alternative." Many believe the answer is to try harder to be good enough before a holy God through their morality. Their problem is they do not understand the holiness of God, nor do they understand their own wickedness. Those who believe that God will accept them into his heaven based upon their good behavior have an awfully small view of God. They do not understand that they cannot measure up before this perfect God. His standard is perfection. And that perfection is far beyond where man can jump. Whereas the Lord Jesus Christ measured up perfectly, and his performance bridged the huge gap that was created between God and man by man's rebellion. In verse 8 of today's passage, we read, "A stone of stumbling and a rock of offense. They stumble, being disobedient to the word, to which they also were appointed." Many have trouble with this verse because it seems to mean that unbelievers earn their favor before God. We can't do that. But if we believe, we will obey. We won't be perfect in our obedience, but there will be obedience. Many believe that unbelievers were appointed to disbelief. This is not the case. God has never been known to damn any human to hell. In fact, as this verse underscores, those who reject the free gift of salvation through the Lord Jesus were appointed to the penalty of not believing. Peter refers here to a stone of stumbling or a loose rock on the path that the unbeliever trips over. Then he refers to a rock of offense or an obstacle one cannot get around. The Lord Jesus is unavoidable. We will come to him as our rock of provision and protection, or we will come to him as the rock of offense, who will crush all who will not believe. The Lord Jesus Christ is precious to God, approved by God, and precious to all who will choose to believe upon him. My friends, I trust this blog and this podcast are helping you in your walk with the Lord. If I could be of further assistance to you, shoot me an email at BYoungMinistry@gmail.com. Hey, have a great